This is the Tata Sierra EV. I think you already know everything there is to know about it by this point. So for this review, I'm going to keep things quite simple. We're just going to run through a couple of things I like about this car and a couple of things I don't. So here goes. And let's start with something fun that you can do before you even hit the road. It's got this cool disc-like key which has lots of functions on it, more than just locking and unlocking the car. For instance, you press it once, it'll flash the car's headlights so you can find it in a parking lot. That's pretty common. But it also has a way to turn it on remotely, and then it has a summon mode. However, the functionality of that is a little hit and miss. I'm going to try and do it now. You have to hold on to the button. Will it come forward? Yes, it will. As long as you keep that button pressed, you can summon the car out of a tight parking spot, and that's really, really handy. Come on, car. How long will you go before you give up? That is pretty cool. The Sierra EV has a powered tailgate with gesture opening, which is an amazing feature to have. However, picture this. Your kids are in the car, they're crying because they want to go home, your hands are full of groceries. So you come up to the car and aha, and then it's raining now. It takes an eternity, and somebody taller than me would really have to duck under that to put their stuff in. I don't know if that's a safety feature, but it certainly isn't a convenient one. But maybe you'll be willing to forgive the Sierra EV that because of just how handsome it is. I think it looks amazing. No, really, the Sierra is already a good-looking car, and I think they've only improved things with the Sierra EV. You probably know this by now, but there's a subtle difference in the front. Most people are not going to know it if they aren't car aficionados, but in the standard ICE car, the top half is black plastic, while the bumper lower down is body colored, and they've flipped it for the EV, and that gives it that sort of grillless look like most EVs have. And frankly, between the two, I think I kind of prefer this, even though that one looks really good. They've also got the illuminated Tata logo as opposed to the chrome one, and this sort of light bar over here lights up with your charging to show you a bit of charging indicator while the car is stationary. I think overall it's a great triumph of design and proves that an EV doesn't have to constantly just look like a bubble in the name of aerodynamics. But why the Sierra really succeeds is its proportions, because with this monocoque SUV, they've really delivered on that butch, tall, square-edged SUV stance. I mean, just look at it. It's a relatively short bonnet and a really long cabin, which can run the risk of looking very MPV-like, but they've managed to avoid it thanks to great proportions once again. Bold upright bonnet, very subtly curved but mostly squared off, and this cabin that just goes horizontal all the way to the end, and a really big boxy tail end. What that means is a spacious cabin, and that's how it also gets that 622, I think, liter boot space, which is truly amazing. It's also because the wheels are pushed out all the way to the edge that you get a long wheelbase in a pretty long but relatively compact area. It gives it a great stance too. These are 19-inch wheels, just like the ICE version, although they look a little too similar to the ICE version in my opinion. The ICE version has sort of gloss finish on it, and this one's a matte finish. That's a slight difference, but I wish they'd gone for a totally different design with this car. Still looks very good and I like it. Other differences are this sort of green outline on the Tata EV badge, which is on the flanks, and of course a slightly green outline on the Tata Sierra EV badge on the boot lid. Other than that, it looks really good. It looks pretty much the same. They've tried to retain that sort of overarching window line that the original Sierra had with this blacked out effect. I'm still not sure about this L-shaped trim piece over here. I think they could have achieved the same effect without it, but hey, That's just me. Tell us what you think down in the comments. But overall, they managed to give it a nice stylistic look without compromising on practicality, and that's the main thing. Some design trends, however, maybe should not be followed. Why does it have flush door handles? I'm pretty sure it doesn't need it. It's certainly not for aero reasons, because this is a big blocky car and it has these gigantic wing mirrors. And well, functionally they're just not as good as a regular door handle, and well, they collect dirt on the inside. It's just not fun to use. A trend I am glad they followed, however, is maximizing storage space. It's got a frunk. That's right, even though this looks almost identical to the ICE counterpart, Tata says it's a completely different architecture, and almost as if to drive that point home, they've given it front storage. Now, in this all-wheel drive version with a front motor, it's a bit smaller at 35 liters, but in the rear-wheel drive cars, there's no motor on the front, therefore it's 55 liters and can hold a bit more. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, and yeah, it isn't, but just that little bit of extra space to keep your charging cables or a few knickknacks that you want to hide from the conventional boot space, it really makes all the difference. And it's a bit of a flex from Tata Motors that yes, this is a through and through EV and not just some hash job that they converted from an ICE car. Wish it had a gas strut though. This doesn't feel quite right in a car of this price. And you can't talk about space without talking about the back seat. What a back seat this is. I mean, just like the ICE Sierra, this is a tremendous place to be chauffeur driven from, and whether it comes to the seat comfort, which is really good, or the absolute space you have here, which is excellent. As you can see, I'm just under 5'8". That's set to my driving position. Headroom is also superb. You got the massive glass roof up here to let some light in when you want it to, and just overall it's got this lovely lounge like ambience back here. So this works as a chauffeur driven car really well. Now, I don't know what they've done, or I'm not sure if they've done anything at all, but you don't feel the presence of a battery pack under the floor. There's no real compromise on thigh support. It's still pretty good, and if you do feel it lacking a little bit, you can always stretch out because there's just that much leg room for you. We asked Tata Motors engineers about the floor height, and they said it's only about an inch taller than the ICE versions. That's really impressive, especially when you consider it's got 205 mm of ground clearance. Now, EVs are generally a recipe for bad ground clearance because the battery pack hangs out down here, but Tata Motors has engineered it such that even with the battery pack down where it is, and yeah, you can see that it hangs lower than the rest of the car's body, they still have 205 mm of ground clearance. That's proper SUV stuff. Which brings us neatly on to the other surprise. It's pretty good off-road. Now yes, this was a curated off-road course prepared by Tata Motors for this very car, so of course we knew it was going to clear all the obstacles. And yes, some of those obstacles were more about spectacle than being a real test. But other obstacles were pretty intense and demanded more than we expected. There we go. Okay, so this at this crazy angle of near 35 degrees, if you can tell, really hits you in the gut. You can put that down to its short overhangs and 205 mm of ground clearance maybe, and this is certainly something most owners will never do with their Sierra EV. But if you're going to offer all-wheel drive, you might as well show it off, right? Plus, Tata hasn't had a four-wheel drive car in years, not until these new EVs came along, that is. So maybe it wants to prove that it's still got it. Go on, Tata, reclaim your life. But now back inside. As before, I'm not so sure about this L-shaped design. It's created quite a few compromises, apart from just looking a bit odd. Your sunblind just leaves this unsightly gap, and that's quite annoying there, but hey, a sunblind is a good feature to have all the same. That may sound like a nitpick, but then you hop in the front. The news is good, at first. The dashboard design and ambience is just great. I mean, it really does give you that feeling of being in a luxurious lounge. There's soft touch materials in all the right places, especially up here on the dashboard. And even this soundbar, it's a speaker essentially, it's in the front right here. It's got this lovely textured fabric with this nice pattern on it that looks very, very upmarket. Fabric is underrated, guys. More cars should use it. Overall, it's the light colors which might not be so easy to keep clean, but that impart a great sense of luxury over here. Though it looks great, however, a perennial Tata Motors problem is fit and finish, and that sadly has carried over to this new Sierra EV as well. There are rough edges everywhere, and unfortunately, they are often in your line of sight. There's these plastics that just don't line up over there. There's a rough edge around the door handle which you could nick your knuckles on, and just there, the frame for the heads-up display has a mismatched piece of plastic. It ruins what is otherwise a great ambience, these plastics, and that's something Tata Motors really needs to work on soon. There are other weird bits like these flimsy plastic bits on the door handles. I wish they'd just gone with conventional buttons instead of that. And of course, the touch panel for the AC, which is also finished in gloss black, that makes it really hard to see on the move and hit the right button. Tata, just go back to knobs and dials, please. In fact, there's more gloss black plastic over here, which really causes reflections and attracts a lot of scratches when you're driving. And again, a simpler matte finish would have helped that over there. And while we're down here on the spot, let's talk about ergonomics, because again, that's a perennial Tata Motors thing, and they haven't quite sorted it here either. Now, yes, they have a huge central console to work with, and I just don't think they've done a good enough job with the space. I mean, all the space is just wasted in having this gigantic gear selector up here. This could have been utilized for a whole lot more. The wireless charger is up here, and you have this tiniest of cubbies down there. Now, this could have been made larger. The gear shift could have been made lower. The cup holders could have been made larger, and that space down there just feels wasted. They could have used it for something else. So yes, while this looks cool as a command center, in terms of sheer practicality, they could have done so much more with it. If you want an example of good packaging, just look at what they've hidden under the rear spoiler. The rear wiper is hidden inside there. I don't think that makes too much of a difference to the functionality, but it just looks clean as hell. Clean as hell. But then, not all additions are necessarily good. That third passenger screen. Now, Tata Motors is certainly not the only brand guilty of falling into this gimmicky trap, but I really have to state that it just has no use, and that money could have been better spent somewhere else. What does it say about you as a driver if your passenger would rather look at a screen than talk to you while you're on a drive? Now, Tata Motors has had some cool features like a new gaming suite that lets you play multiplayer across the car with your phones, but you could do that anyway without that screen. It's a cool screen, don't get me wrong, it's very high resolution and I'm sure it functions really well, but it just feels unnecessary and money that could have been spent better somewhere else. You can't knock Tata too hard for that one, however, because they really have loaded the Sierra EV up with every conceivable gizmo. Features, you name it, and this car has it, and Tata really has thrown everything at this car. They always give their EVs something of an edge over their ICE counterparts, and that's the case here too. For instance, this car gets the triple screen layout plus the HUD. In the ICE version, it's one or the other, so this car has both. And besides that, it's got loads of stuff that you'd want in a car of this segment: dual zone climate control, a Dolby Atmos JBL Black sound system that I can report sounds excellent, ventilated powered front seats, both this one too, which is not the case in the ICE car, and memory function for the driver as well, wireless phone charging of course, and loads of other comfort features which we'll list right now. While it hasn't yet been tested by Global or Bharat NCAP, the ICE Sierra scored 5 stars in B NCAP, so you could reasonably expect that rating to reflect here too. There is, however, one safety feature that's a bit annoying. Now, I know Tata Motors means well, and what the idea is that when you put it into drive or into reverse, the car will not move if you don't have your seat belt on. And that's very, very noble. Yeah, you shouldn't be driving without a seat belt. But what if you just needed to park, move back and forth in a short space to get the car out of the way? It will not move. It will not disengage the parking brake. I know people have found ways around that, but it just feels like an unnecessary step. Also, there is no way to disengage the parking brake outside of the P button here. They've just done away with the parking brake lever altogether. And that feels like a bit of over control rather than freedom and rather than safety. Something to think about, Tata Motors. We know what we're doing. There are, however, other functions that are quite helpful. The Express Cool function. Now, I know this is not new to Tata Motors cars at all, but it's just such a cool thing. As you can see, it has put the AC on maximum cooling. The AC itself works really well. Tatas are some of the best in the market, and it also purges the car of any hot air. So in a very short time, it brings the temperature down to something that's really, really comfortable. And I think more cars should do something as clever as that. Back on the road, and you can't help but smile when you put your foot down. It is quick. This dual motor QWD version makes 306 horsepower and over 500 Newton meters of torque. And that lets it do 0 to 100 kph in 5.8 seconds, Tata says. Well, let's see what that looks like. Cut to yesterday, where we got to charge around the coast racetrack. Well, we're on a racetrack, so why not? 0 to 100, let's go. Yep, that sure felt like 5.8 seconds to me. Though that number is certainly impressive, and we absolutely believe it will do a 5.8 second sprint, from the driver's seat it doesn't feel all that ballistic. Then again, should that matter in a family EV? But acceleration times will only get you so far. At the end of the day, it's got to feel good in everyday mundane stuff. So does it? Well, considering Tata Motors has been in the EV game for as long as it has, I'm surprised they haven't gotten past that same sort of basic feeling EV propulsion. What I mean by that is, it's quite one note, it's quite unexciting, and it's quite characterless. Now you might be thinking, well, that describes all EVs, but that's not entirely true. Newer manufacturers with newer generation EVs have come along and have found a way to make acceleration feel somewhat progressive. And that's something Tata just hasn't gotten right, even with its latest EV on this new platform. There is something of a dead zone when you initially put your foot down, and it's only once you get past a certain point on the accelerator pedal travel that it starts moving. And that's a bit frustrating. When you're just crawling in traffic, you press it and not too much happens. Don't get me wrong, it's still very smooth. I just wish they had found a bit more progression in this accelerator by now. I should also point out that though there are drive modes, they don't feel too different from one another, apart from Eco mode, which is noticeably duller. There are terrain modes too for off-road use, as well as regen modes that you can adjust via the paddles. Refinement is actually excellent, except for the fact that this car is quite tall and boxy, and so when we are in crosswinds like we are now, I don't know if you can hear that, but you can hear it lashing against the windows around the A-pillar. The powertrain itself, however, is incredibly refined. Another everyday consideration is comfort, and well, this Sierra EV continues Tata's tradition of superb suspension tuning. Ride quality is excellent. Tata Motors have always been the kings of chassis engineering, and that is true even with this car. Even on these 19-inch wheels and with all this weight of the battery pack, it rides superbly well. There's excellent body control, and potholes just get dismissed without a second thought. And this doesn't come at the cost of stability either. It will stay rock solid planted at whatever highway speed you choose. I really like that head-up display. Now in this car you get the 3-screen layout and the head-up display, and that's really cool. It's a good one. It's big, it's bright, it's easy to read, and that's exactly what you want. It's not too distracting for the most part. It gives you your state of drive, it gives you the speed limit even, and the speed you're going at, plus a few navigation directions if you've got the map set up. However, it's got these blue rectangles that keep flashing on the screen. And I've only realized now that what it is showing me where vehicles are. I can see, I'm looking through the windscreen at the HUD, so I know where they are. There's no need to show me that, and it's actually quite distracting, so I'll see if there's a way to turn that off. While the HUD is incredibly informative and quite simple and clear to read, this set of digital dials just isn't. Now, kudos to Tata Motors for developing a great sort of corporate identity, so to speak, with all their graphics. They look really upmarket, rich, and they're smooth and crisp. The trouble is when you cram all that into a screen the way they have, it's just very crowded and everything looks quite small. Luckily, the big numbers, speed and range, are big and therefore you can read them quite easily, but everything else is just filling the screen and you really have to concentrate. On top of that, Tata Motors insists on flashing warnings at you every time anything happens. Somebody gets close to you, you start the car, you put on the handbrake, whatever it is, it'll show you a warning, and that's very, very distracting. Now this is a small thing, but it's very, very helpful. They've now integrated the car with Google Maps a little bit better so that all your destinations that show up also tell you how much charge the car will have when you reach. It's a small but very helpful thing to help you plan your journeys without range anxiety, and I'm told you can even set how much charge you want to have at minimum before you reach any destination, and it will help you plan accordingly. It just shows that Tata's managed to integrate this car's onboard systems with Google Maps properly, so kudos to them for that. I'm sure this is an isolated case, but that's no excuse, Tata Motors. But the steering wheel is not screwed on straight. At the straight ahead position, it's pointing ever so slightly right. It's just a little bit, but it's annoying me. So the moment you point it straight, it starts pulling to the left. And this is another example of that fit and finish issue that Tata Motors just can't seem to get right. These seats are really good. They might not look like much at first glance, but they're actually quite supportive, especially in the shoulder area, and that's something a lot of car makers just ignore. They work on the lumbar support and the side support, and that's all well and good. But over a long journey, to be supported well in the shoulders, I think that's a very important thing that's often overlooked. Unfortunately, I can't give you a definitive word on range on such a drive, but I can tell you that with a 75 kilowatt hour battery, it better be good. Tata says that even in the real world, you'll get upwards of 500 kilometers of range from this larger battery. And going by our drive today, I'd say that is possible. A quick spec check to tell you about the batteries. Apart from this 75 kWh unit, there's a smaller 63 kWh unit, and what differentiates this from the Harrier EV that came before is that the Sierra uses prismatic cells mounted in a cell 2-pack or C2P arrangement. This means the same 75 kWh capacity takes up less space and weighs less too. The smaller battery is rated at 565 km on the MIDC cycle, while the larger one is rated at 665 km. Tata says both will charge from 20 to 80% in just 26 minutes on a 120 kW DC fast charger, though the actual max charging speed remains to be seen. Now, is it any surprise that the Sierra EV is an absolute triumph? I mean, we've already said that the Sierra ICE is the best new Tata in ages, and we've also said that the ICE powertrains are easily outclassed in the Tata stable by their EV counterparts. And the Sierra, well, it's a combination of both those things. Now, of course, it's not perfect. No car is, and if you watch this video all the way till here, you've seen what we don't like about this car, but what it does on balance for the segment is what really makes it stand out. You see, like the ICE Sierra, it has taken its segment forward. This is big for a mid-size SUV. It's incredibly spacious. It's got class-leading performance thanks to all-wheel drive. It's also got go-anywhere ability, and well, you've seen all the gizmos and gadgets it's got inside as well. What it really does is make for an excellent family car that just so happens to be an EV, and the range is really good as well. I think the biggest problem for Tata Motors will be how it fits in with the Harrier EV and the Curve EV, because in our opinion, it does a better job than both those cars on balance. The trouble is price. It is on the expensive side for the segment, but then so is its key rival, the Mahindra BE6. And on that front, which of those two is better? That's a question for another time. For now, though, the Tata Sierra really has what it takes in EV guys to be a winner in our books. Well, 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 look who's showed up on the right over here. Drag race, drag race, drag race, drag race. Let's go.